Hey folks, Moose here. Happy New Year to you. I see that I got green lights. Stream says healthy and I'm live, so I hope you're live too. Thanks for dropping by. I really do appreciate it. It's great that you're spending a little time with me. I'm grateful for that. Let's see here. I've got people asking questions. I put the question out there already. In case you didn't notice, there's a live chat. You can post questions, and I will do my best to answer them. I posted the first question, wondering how many people had gotten into this thing yet. You know, the Nikon Z system. It's like any camera body. I find that no matter what the camera body happens to be announced or released, reviewed on the web, there's always going to be that same kind of basic wave of questions, of befuddlement, and of course, you know, should I buy it? So that's a great question. So hey Spencer, great to hear from you from England. I'm going to see you in March, I hope. From Paris, JR, hey, that's very cool. Thanks for coming by. Sean, Terada, hey, a couple people from Australia. Hey, Chuck, good to see you. Well, hey, John, well, thanks. Thought I'd start off the year with a live stream. So back to the Z. I've written about this, and just to make sure everybody is clear, my main camera body is still the D5. That's still my workhorse. None of the Zs are like the D5, period. And they're not supposed to be. Now, when Nikon did the original launch, I've mentioned this a few times, and I keep mentioning it because people haven't seen it, don't know what I'm talking about, but, you know, why do they have a Z? Why do they have a mirrorless? Where do they fit in? Well, I need you to understand, at least from the Nikon's point of view and my point of view, is that the Z family is meant to complement what you have already. It's not meant to replace, meant to complement. So in my mind, the D850, the Z7, okay, megapixel cameras. You know, the D5, Z6, multiple frame cameras, big things. So if I'm going to go out with a D5, I'm going to complement it with the Z7. If I'm shooting with the D850, I'm going to complement it with the Z6. Now, the reason why I do that is for a couple reasons. The main one being, you can have two Z bodies in the same pocket in a bag that one DSLR would fit in. That's very cool. Having more bodies, especially when you're doing video work, project work, that's a biggie. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I'm doing. You know, I have the D5, and then I have a Z7, Z6. You know, I have them all out there with me. Now it comes to still photography, like anything so far that I've come against in my 40 years. You know, the camera does a great job. The lens does a great job. It's me, the photographer, that has to kind of like catch up. And that's true with mirrorless. Now the Z6 is my preferred of the two bodies. It's the one I pick up majority of the time. It's the most seamless to the way I work. But I have, be honest, forced myself to use the mirrorless cameras for the last 2 months. So they fit into me seamlessly because there is some new things to learn. So that's just my, you know, quick understanding of where I'm coming from when it comes to the Z cameras. Okay, so I've got some questions. Okay. Let's see here. Well, that's an interesting name. Premier Property Inspection and Consulting. Your parents were creative on your birth certificate. Anyway. How do I get your exposure for birds in flight? It's how I get my exposure for anything. There's no this exposure for that, exposure for this, exposure for that. It's all the same. It has to base on the story I want to tell and use exposure compensation. There's a ton on the website about that, and there's videos on the YouTube channel. You might want to check those out for further explanation. Let's see here. Aram, hey. Thanks for coming through. I appreciate you coming by. Good dog. I ran to Z7 and it was fun. I was able to use my Nikon lenses, which I haven't with my Sony A7R. Well, good dog. or anybody else out there. You know, it's the same question that came out and came up with the D800, D810, D850. You know, those megapixel cameras. Do you need the megapixels or you need the frames per second? Because if you think the Z7 was fun, I'm here to tell you the Z6 is a whole lot more fun. Seriously, I really love that Z6. And of course, remember, I love the D5, the D850. Great camera, but it's just not one that just fits moose. It's kind of like that way with the Z7. And I know they are identical. I mean, the same footprint, same everything, same menus. But whatever it is about the Z6, probably the way the EVF works a little bit better, other things like that, I just love that Z6. But I'm glad you tried it, because renting is the way you should go. With anything brand new, body or lens, rent that puppy and rent it and push it hard for a week or 2 weeks. Find out if it's really meant for you and your shooting before you put down those hard-earned dollars. Hey, Robert, you love your Z7. Outstanding. So did you get the 24-70 or the 50-1.8 or the 35-1.8? I'm curious how many people have the Z Nikors and what you think of those. Bad Australian internet. It could be both ways. Right now, for those who don't know, I live in Mammoth Lakes, California, which on a normal day has got about 6,000 people. Right now, because we live on a volcano, which is a major ski resort, there's about 43,000 people in town. So our little internet, even though I've got a clean line, there's a couple hackers that have been busy. And so we've had a few internet problems here. So if you're seeing a little problem, it could be, you know, coming from me as well. It says right now that I'm going out at full strength, but hey, you know, what can I tell you? Let's see here. What's that?
How does it feel in your hands? Sorry.
How does it feel in my hands? The Z6, Z7? You know, that's a really great question. Now, the camera, let's see if I can get this so you can see it. All right. In here, it has the FN1, FN2 buttons, which I really like that part of it, because I can, when I'm shooting flash, keep my eye of the viewfinder, press the F1, F2 buttons, and can easily work and see things like the grid and what I just took a picture of. And those buttons are really big. They're much bigger than buttons on a DSLR. I kind of like that part. I've had to kind of modify the way I actually hold the camera in my hand. And I'll be honest with you, this eyepiece, you know, because it sticks out back like this is great for people who wear glasses. People that have a brown eye socket like me, this thing's horrible. It hits right at the wrong spot, and I'm pushing in so hard to keep that, you know, proper hand holding technique going that I will sometimes, I get a bruise right there. So, you know, there's the things I'm getting used to. So that's, like I said, I've mentioned, I've sat there and shot with it 2 months straight just to get it used to, and me used to it. Let's see here. Marcia, you got a Z6. Outstanding. Have you had to clean the sensor yet? Well, yeah, I've had to clean the sensor on the 6 and the 7. It's very easy to do. First thing, turn off the camera. Okay, so it goes completely off. And then take the battery out completely. When you take the battery out completely, the sensor's parked. Okay, for those who aren't aware, the VR in the Z6, Z7, which works really bloody well, is on a 5 gimbal system. You could say the sensor kind of floats around. It doesn't go like this. Okay, it's minute. And the VR works incredibly well, especially shooting handheld video. If the battery is inside that camera, that gimbal is live. So if you try to clean the sensor with a wet swab, there is the possibility of causing damage. So you take the battery out, turn the camera on, hold down the button for a count of 5, make sure the system's bled out, then clean the sensor like you always have. Now the thing that's very cool is the sensor, and by the way, I'm there was a person who sent me an email when they first got their Z7 and said, hey, there's no mirror up function in the camera to clean the sensor. There's no mirror, guys. It's mirrorless. But because it is so shallow, can I show that in here? Because it's so shallow, you can actually put the sensor swab at the right angle, which is hard to do in a DSLR. But this is real easy. It's just boom, boom, and you're done. So yeah, I've cleaned the sensor on we have 4, we have 2, 6, 7, 4, we have 2, 6, 7, 2 Z7s, 2 Z6s. And I've cleaned the sensor on 3 of them so far, and not a problem, real quick and easy. But it's a great question. Let's see here. I've noticed some pros are switching from Canon to Nikon. Is this the way of the future? First, define the word pro, okay? Here's my first thing. When you switch systems, there's a lot of money. And in the business of photography, you know, it takes $5 for every one you spend. You got to earn 5. So just switching, and you're in the business of being a photographer, that's a lot of money. It means you're making a lot of money with your photography, which is a great thing. So just switching, and pros, I want to know that definition. Is this the way of the future? Hey, Canon, Nikon, it's been like this for my 40 years. And it doesn't affect my photography, so I'm afraid I don't keep track of that. Sorry. Are you using the Nikon adapters for lenses on your Z6? Oh yeah, you have to use the F to Z adapter for your Z7, Z6 to use all you use about 90 of the current Nikon lenses, and there's 92, right? So it's basically all of them. So you're using all your Nikon lenses. So I put the Z6, the Z7, I use it on the 800, the 180, 400, all the way down to the 8 to 15, and you need to use the F to Z to do that. Works really well, incredibly snug, no issues. so Robert, 2470, but really like the manual focus lenses like my Z. Okay, I don't know anything about those. But the focus peaking in the Z6 and the Z7, that is really cool. If you didn't see that blog post, you can, when you close down that lens f22, 32, with focus peaking, you'll see that focus peaking actually go with your depth of focus as it grows. So you can actually see what's all in focus. Critical focus. That is a cool thing. I love that. Oh, thanks, Brian. I'm glad you liked that shot. That was taken with the Z body on 180-400. Is the battery life better or worse than mirrorless cameras? Okay, since I've never owned any other mirrorless cameras other than Nikon V1, 2, and 3, I can't tell you because I've never done comparative tests. For our own shooting, when it comes to battery pounding, video is always going to pound batteries more than still photography. And if you chimp, you're going to pound that battery even more. So when it comes to video work, Brent and I have found that the Z family doesn't use any more batteries than the D850 when it comes to shooting video. So for us, it's doing a great job. I've seen a whole lot of people with really funky kind of battery numbers out there, and I don't know where they're getting them from because we're not seeing those results at all. Hey, Harry, thanks for showing up. You know, about now, I should mention that I have 2 B&H Photo cards. So how we're going to do that? So I see people who subscribe. Okay, you subscribe to the channel, put you in for one of those $50 cards. And of course, if you ever want to find me when I'm not here on the live broadcast, remember you can find me on the website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those kind of things. So I'm out there. And for winning the cards, I'm looking for those great questions. So the great questions tonight, I'm going to give you a $50 B&H gift card, courtesy of my friends of B&H. Let's see here. How many Z7s for cinematic video, autofocus, and color? How the Z7s for cinematic video? Purple arrows, another unique name. I have 4 in the locker, and we use them for doing our documentary. I don't know what else to tell you on that. We're using them for our documentary, so we make money with them. Cinematic video, I don't know that answer. I don't do cinematic. I'm doing documentaries. Any problems with the FTC adapter? No problem as far as I'm concerned. They're snug, work great. The only problem I can tell you about for a fact is, it's not a problem, it's a moose thing. You've got on one side the cap that's big that goes on the Z, and then you got the normal F mount cap, body cap on this side. And remembering to grab the right caps to put them on that when I put it back in the bag always stops me. Even 2 months later, I have to sit there and think about it. So there's a mental problem. That's the only problem I have with that. Let's see here. David, planning your first trip to Yellowstone and Tetons this coming September for a week. Should that be a great time for wildlife? Should it be worth renting a 604? I couldn't tell you. You know, nothing is the same out there anymore. The world is changing. And September has been warm, and if it's warm, you're not going to see critters. So you rent a 600 f4. Since you really can't chase things in a national park, it's better to have a longer lens. So, wish I could be more help. Let's see here. Jay, do you think Nikon will come out with firmware updates to make improvements and add features like autofocus? I have no clue. I know logically firmware seemed like, you know, a no-brainer kind of thing to do, but after that, asking that question of an engineer, I found out that just wanting something and having a firmware to do that and actually seeing it in a camera work, not the same thing. But iFocus, I have no clue. Let's see here. Roy, at least the Z system is a step toward mirrorless for us photogs with a large ecosystem. Okay, true. In my own personal 40 years working with the Nikon, and they're coming out with gear, I'm incredibly overwhelmed and absolutely impressed with how well they thought out the mirrorless system. You know, that right out of the gate, they came out with really two incredibly solid cameras that just work. And they work with the system, and they deliver files that I'm putting in my hands of my clients, and they're totally thrilled with. Example, I took a shot of some nose art of a plane that just got put onto our C-47 Normandy Bound project. And the words weren't there, just the actual art. And the owner of the aircraft just loved it. Her name is Gloria. And he goes, this is great. I wish I could get this on canvas so I could have it at home, because you can't really take a C-47 and park it in your living room and look at it at night. Just don't work. So I took the Z7, I shot it, and I printed it on canvas. And when he got that canvas print, because he wanted it to look like artwork, he was blown away how sharp it looked even on canvas. So, you know, these tools are just amazing, and I'm surprised and absolutely thrilled. They're just so great right out of the gate. You wish Nikon started a slip-in filter system into the FTC adapter like Canon. Okay, I don't, but if that's what you wish, you got to realize, one, it's going to drive the cost up. Two, you're going to have a second set of filters. And three, that rear element's going to go into FTZ, and you're going to start limiting how many lenses you can use. So I like it inexpensive and just functional. Would you recommend the 24-70 starting out with one of the primes? Oh, on the Z? Okay. KH Fishin'. You just won a $50 gift card, because that's a great question. So you have to go to my website and send me an email, and a gift card is coming to you. So to answer your question, the 24-70 is an f4. The 35 is a 1.8. The 50 is a 1.8. Now, in my personal opinion, that's all it is. The 50 1.8 is the sharpest lens I have seen since the 105-1.4. It is just spectacular. And I like 50 millimeter. Now, if you don't like 50 millimeter, I'd get the 35 1.8. It is just a tad, maybe not as sharp as 50 1.8, but it's a more versatile lens. So I would get one of those primes over the 24-70, but that's myself personally. But great question. You just got yourself that gift card, so thank you. Roy, iFocus doesn't seem to work on most systems. Well, you know, I'm an old fart. I don't know how many people remember. Canon came out with an eye tracking system for autofocus back in the 80s. It got taken out of the market because the FDA said it was like bad for our eyes. So, you know, that's the first thing that kind of makes me nervous. They start, shining things in your eyes. You know, think about it. A guy up there flying a plane and someone uses a green laser and there's issues. If anything, the pinpoint autofocus, that's the new autofocus mode in the Z bodies, that works so incredibly well that I can't see a reason for any other automated system. Does the Z cameras record audio notes? It doesn't. You know, that's a really good question. It does not. But a quick workaround that I do is I just shoot a video and just talk, and the video records my notes. It's not the same as having a note attached to the image, but that's my workaround right now. Do I have any complaints about having a dual card shot? Here's the thing with Moose. I don't know if you noticed this. I don't really have complaints about anything, because does it help? No, it just makes more bitterness. So, you know, it doesn't have 2 card slots. I don't know if you looked at the camera. There isn't any place to put it in the card slot. And since I started out with the D1, which only had 1 slot, and the D2 had 1 slot, you know, it doesn't faze me to have only 1 slot. But no, I don't have any complaints. It's a tool. There's no perfect tool, so I use what I've got and I make the most of it. And for 40 years, it seems to have worked out okay for me. Seer Don, hope you will do more live chats. I have missed them. Well, Don, we'll see what life brings. The one thing that, you know, I got to be basically in the office to do them. They didn't work that well on the road. Lots of technical problems, so I'll see what we can do, but I appreciate the voice of confidence. Harry, do you still have an extra stop of dynamic range when you go to exposure comp +1? So for those who aren't familiar, the D850, the D5, when you raise your exposure compensation to +1, your dynamic range actually kind of shifts from 5 stops to 6 stops. It's a really illogical way of making it work and thinking of it, but it works really well. I use it quite often. The Z7 has that. Yes, you can go to +1, increases dynamic range for stills, but even better for video, which has always been the real problem because you have to bring in all these lights to compact the exposure. The Z6 and Z7, and they're the only Nikons that will do that, you can shoot N-Log. You shoot right out the HDMI port right to the Ninja 5. You shoot N-Log, and you have right off the bat, because you're shooting basically raw video, and then you have the ability, you have basically, you can say Adobe Camera Raw in Premiere. So now we're getting 12 stops of information, highlights and shadows. That's huge, especially in a cockpit of a plane when you got a pilot and you're looking out those windows. It's really dark and it's really bright and you can't bring in auxiliary lights. That makes a huge difference. Plus the small form factor of the Z, that's a real problem solver. Let's see here. Henry, how? Moose, the Z7 is having difficulty focusing in moderate low light with the 24/7. So Henry, you're saying your Z7 is having difficulty focusing in moderate low light? Okay, so had this quite a bit, and I find most people don't understand how autofocus works, period, whether it's a Canon, Nikon, whatever, okay? But autofocus needs 3 things, okay? It needs contrast. It needs a strong vertical or a strong horizontal line. Diagonal line, vertical line, contrast. It needs one of those 3 things for it to work. If you're in a low light situation and you have low contrast, it ain't gonna work. No matter if it's a D5, D850, Z6, Z7, don't make a difference. If you don't have that strong vertical or diagonal line for the AF system to lock onto, it's not gonna work. That ain't changing anytime soon. So low light, okay, if it means low contrast, no, it's not going to work. It's not supposed to. That's how the system is designed. Let's see here. Roy, if iFocus doesn't work that way, I'm sorry. I have no clue. What can I tell you? You'll have to find someone else who knows what your iFocus thing is that you were looking for, because I don't know. Sorry. Let's see here. Steven, Soggy PA. What are the top 3 most difficult images shots to accomplish, and what challenges did you have to overcome? Gee, Steve, that's a great question, but I never thought about it that way. I guess, to me, all my assignments are all self-assignments. No one pays me to go out and take pictures. So the first challenge, of course, is coming up with the idea and then executing it and finding the funds to make all that happen. So they're all challenging, and because of that, they're all rewarding in different ways. Even if it's a failure, it's been a rewarding process. So I don't have an answer for you on that one. Sorry about that. Let's see here. Does anyone know a photographer write a backup to the second card? Okay, I guess that's for all the people that chat. Aram, well, thanks for coming in, and I appreciate you liking it. Hey, Carol, good to see you. Thanks for joining in. Let's see here. Jay, do you use the U1, U2, 3 settings? And if how, I don't use, Jay's asking about these extra settings on the dial, which are same as like in the D5, D850, the custom user settings. I don't use those. I don't have different settings for different things. Photography, whether it's a coin, a rock, a rabbit, a plane, it's all about light and depth of field. The rest of it, is mean more than the camera, so I don't use those. It was a group portrait. Well, Henry, I'm afraid you know the situation for your focusing issue. I'm afraid I don't, so I can't. Again, you got to have those 3 things for autofocus to work. Without them, it ain't going to work. Brian, what have been your best light mods so far? I'm sorry, Brian, I'm not sure I mean by best light mods. Don't know what you mean. Try to give it to me a different way, would ya? MJ, how do you handle low light focusing if AF can't? Well, remember, I'm an old guy. I manual focus a lot. I don't rely on autofocus. A lot of times I'm going to be manually focusing, so it's for me it's quicker, and that's what I use even if it's bright and sunny out. DIK is what is the part of your gear you care the less? What is the part of your gear you care the less? D1 Kiz, I'm not sure exactly. The only stab I could take at it, if you would go to my website and look at my camera bag, I don't have a ton of gear. I usually have less than a lot of people I go shooting with. So I only have tools that help me with my storytelling. So I care about all of them the same, and I only take with me what I think I need for that trip. So they're all kind of important. I guess if I had to say what I care less about, I ain't got that one. Sorry. The new lenses for the Z this year look interesting. Any opinion? Well, the 58 f.95. That is really cool. And then there's the I think there's the 14 to 40 f4. I think it's another lens slated for this year that Brent and I have our eyes on for our videography. So those are the 2 cool lenses. Otherwise, I bought that 180 to 400, and according to the boss, my producer's here, by the way. She should say hello. There's the producer. She says that I kind of have blown the wad, so I'm not going to be buying as many things like that I need. We have a big trip coming up, going across the northern route to England and to France and Germany and Italy. So pennies are going to be saved for that more than actually getting gear. John asks, any plans to move all to mirrorless? Nope, not one. Mirrorless is not meant to replace anything. It complements. So it's not I'm not going all mirrorless. Even for the video work, we still have two D850s doing video work. So yeah, I'm not going all mirrorless. Do you have a trunk case for your Nikon 600? So Roy, I don't have a 600 f4. I have an 800 5.6. And when I go out shooting with that, it's in my MP1V2 bag. So I do not use the trunk cases that come from Nikon for that. David, how do the robust tripods stack up to the really right stuff? Personally, I like the robust better than really right stuff. For price point, for design, and for execution. The locks on the legs are quick and fast. I've been using them now for about a month, and I really like them. So they're really well done, which, I'll be honest with you, I was surprised. So they're really cool. Brian, have I been using any speed lights with the Zs? So Brian, to answer your question, if I am and how I'm using them, I would refer you to the blog where there's a big post, including video, showing how I'm using them, where I'm using them. It's probably within the last 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks I did the post. But yeah, it works seamlessly. In fact, I think that when it comes to working with flash, the Z6 and Z7 do a better job than the D5 or D850 because they make it so easy since you never have to take your eye away from the EVF. You can look through there, see what you just did, make changes to exposure for both ambient and flash, never taking your eye from the camera. And shooting quick and fast, especially on project work, that's a huge, huge plus. So yeah, I love it. Do you think the new 500/5.6 PF works well with the 1.4 converter? Aram, yes, and I've written about that on the blog as well. The new 500/5.6 PF is a really spectacular lens. It's small. It's small, light, sharp, does a great job. Reminds me of my starting out with the old 400/5.6 EDIF way back in '79. Beautiful lens. Highly recommend it. MJ, do you have a mental outline of how to tell a story? I struggle in the moment what to shoot. MJ, that's a great question. So you get the second $50 card. I'm sure I'm going to watch my numbers plunge now. But anyway, go to my website, send me an email, and I'll get that card to you. And to answer your question, I actually have more than a mental outline. I do a lot of research. For example, right now I'm doing all this research for our Normandy Bound project with the C-47. We're taking back over to France for D-Day, 6 June 2019. So everything from the route to the amount of gas to where the plane went. Right now I'm doing a whole bunch of research on the 6th British unit, 6th Division paratroopers. So all of that information I write down, and then I read those notes. And of course, being old school, when you write something down, you remember it better. And all of that goes into my head. So when I go out to shoot a project, or in this case, this documentary, that history is in my head. And that history is what I want to tell in modern day scenarios with, vets, planes, current situations. So I have that information, which is kind of an outline, which I kind of then use to take my camera from point A to point Z in a day's time. So I kind of shoot in a logical stream, and that logical stream is basically telling the story. That's a great question, so thanks for asking. Roy, you envy my chance to shoot wildlife in planes? Anybody can do it, Roy. You can do it. Anybody watching can do it. It's not just, something I do. You have to, make it happen. And that's why I put out all the information I do on critters and aviation, landscape. All that information is there free for a reason. It's because I want to encourage everybody to do it. It's not just for me. And then from the simple logical point of view, if it was just for me, I couldn't get it all done in my lifetime. I don't think 1,000 of us doing it full time could get it done in a lifetime. So Roy, you can do it as well, and I encourage you to go after it, okay? Brian, do you have one single most memorable, rewarding experience from shooting wildlife or nature? No, I don't have one single. I have thousands. I'm incredibly fortunate, and I have experiences. You know, I've got, what is it? I've got, if I looked at everything I've got about 1,300 species in my files. I mean, that's a lot of time with a lot of different critters, and they all have great stories and have been, you know, just all of them incredibly memorable experiences. So, good question. I wish I had a single answer for you. If I can. Well, I understand, Roy, that life gets in the way of life. That happens as well. That's the way the world works. Well, I see that from my producer, I am coming up on almost 40 minutes. So at this point, I'm going to remind you that, you know, sit there and subscribe to the channel. I see the numbers are kind of low, so am I going to do another broadcast shortly? No, it's probably going to be a while again. It's just a matter of time, so I don't have a ton of time. But remember, you can find me on all my social spots, and I appreciate you taking time this evening to come by. 2 card winners, make sure you head to my website, send me an email, and from there, I wish you all a great new year, and thanks so much for dropping by.